Today, the Southside Blooms youth team visited the Whitney Plantation just outside of New Orleans in order to learn about the rise of the peculiar institution known as slavery and the economic and social factors that drove its expansion. Join us in exploring how slavery became the crucible that molded the African American experience, as well as how it became the gravest sin of the early American experiment. I am Keelan Blackwell, and this is Roots2Bloom's The African American Story. Our team arrived at the Whitney Plantation Museum in Edgard, Louisiana, which is the site of the former Heidel Plantation, where originally they grew indigo, but later transitioned to sugar production. As a backdrop, one of the reasons that the American colonies were established by European powers such as Great Britain, France, Spain, and others was to drive economic growth, specifically by increasing the production of raw materials such as cotton, rice, sugar, tobacco, etc. American slavery surged during two distinct periods. At the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade during the 17th and 18th centuries, as well as after the invention of the cotton gin in 1793, which made cotton production highly profitable and sparked a resurgence in slave labor demand. The conditions of enslaved people were by and large horrific. Enslaved people were treated as property and often endured brutal and inhumane conditions. Families were often forcibly separated, enslaved people conducted backbreaking work, and housing conditions and basic provisions were crude and insufficient. The system of slavery was harshly enforced by slave codes where slaves couldn't leave the plantation without permission, and insubordination was met with violence such as whipping or murder. Out of these truly oppressive conditions, the African American community formed together as one out of the many distinct tribes, languages, and customs from Africa. As music, food, storytelling, and faith in Christianity spread, particularly the Moses story of freedom, all shaping the modern African American culture. This culture would eventually lead to African Americans impacting the world through our contributions in music, sports, religion. The modern-day Christian Pentecostal movement, for example, was started by a black man named William Joseph Seymour, government, business, education, science, medicine, technology, and a host of other fields. Our youth created an immaculate floral pillar to symbolize this story of pain, struggle, and hope. Let's have our youth, Deshauna, explain the design.
Here at the Whitney Plantation, we created a floral pillar that represents the three main crops of slavery. At the top, we have cotton, symbolized using white carnations and baby breath. We also included some pieces of cotton throughout this part. For tobacco, we used large green leaves and pink alstroemeria to look like a flowering tobacco plant. We took dry root mix to symbolize the tobacco once it dried and sold. For sugar, we started with a base of baby breath and put reeds throughout to look like a sugar cane plant. The bleached ruscus runs down like a sugar pouring out onto the ground. For blood, sweat, and tears, we use red berries to symbolize drops of blood, blue dauphinia for sweat, and blue tweedia for tears. Gold ruscus throughout symbolize that the money that was made from these crops, and yellow is brought to symbolize the hope and faith in God that kept these people going through these hard times.
The floral pillar turned out beautifully as the blending of the flowers to represent the cash crops of cotton, sugar, and tobacco, and the pops of gold showing how money drove this evil institution. The pops of yellow highlighted how the faith in God ultimately gave enslaved people hope that one day slavery would be overcome. Our youth did an amazing job of artistically depicting this poignant moment in history. Thanks for joining us in exploring the history of slavery, and we will see you on the next episode of Roots2Bloom.